Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the Astrology Summit 3.0, Raising Your Consciousness and Deepening Your Spiritual Path. I am so thrilled to be here with you again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amanda Walsh, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub. I want to just start out with a question for all of you and tune into how you're doing. How's everybody feeling? Are you excited? And then also, what talks were you able to listen to so far? So would love to hear from you. The astrologers are feeling your love too, astrologers and scientists and spiritual leaders. So many of you just tuning into their newsletters and downloading their free gifts, and they're feeling all that love too. So thank you so much. All right, the feedback so far has been amazing. We have over 12,300 people registered as of right now. So this is so exciting, you guys. This is all of us all around the world coming together around a really specific topic of consciousness and deepening our spiritual path, and using the power of astrology, science, and spirituality to really create a cohesive picture for us so that we can take this wisdom and use it in our day-to-day lives. I hope that you're enjoying the daily practices that the speakers shared with you, and again, taking advantage of the bonus gifts as well. All right, before I share some of the feedback that we've received, I wanted to start off with a quote. It's a quote from an astrologer who sent out an Aries full moon email. Her name is Ginny Ross. She's an astrologer that we've featured in the past, and she lives here on Maui with me as well. And something in her email just jumped off the page. You know how that happens sometimes. And what she said is, the future is open to suggestions. So just sit with that for a moment. The future is open to suggestions. So I'd love for you to just consider, what suggestions are you making to your future right now? What's the energy of your inner dialogue? And how empowered do you feel to co-create your reality? So this is really the point of this event, is to remind you of how powerful of a co-creator you actually are. Is to remind you of how much possibility that there is, and that every day and in every moment we're choosing between seeing possibilities and seeing restriction. And it's also to use the power of astrology, science, and spirituality to remind you that you're not alone and that you matter. And that your future is open to suggestions. So just take that with you. I hope that resonates on some level. I also wanted to, before we move on, remind you that it's not too late to register for this event. So if you're catching this on Facebook or on any of the social media platforms and you're wondering what's going on, it's a 7-day event. It started yesterday. It's entirely free. We're featuring 23 astrologers, spiritual leaders, and scientists who are all talking about consciousness and your spiritual path. And it's not too late to register. You can still do so. The link to do so is in the chat and also in the description above this video. But if you want to just jot it down, it's summit.astrologyhub.com. All right, so I just want to read a few of the comments from yesterday. Rachel says, wow, what a way to start my week over here in Australia. Julie said, all I can say is wow. So much to consider and take in and assimilate. Thank you all. This was beyond my imagination. And Sharon says, thank you. This was great attunement. I was really blown away by how amazing the live Q&A panel was yesterday. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and this is new that we did the live Q&A panel as a part of the summit. So I really didn't know what it was going to be like, how it would be received by you. But the amount of people that showed up and all of your questions and all of the open minds and curiosity and enthusiasm was so contagious. So thank you so much for showing up and for the way that you show up. And we just have the best community. I just love it. I love all of you. Thank you so much. All right. Special thank you to Relovutionary, who posted her notes from day 1 on Instagram and shared it with all of her friends. We saw that and we loved it. And this is reminding me of a few things. Number 1, download the workbook that we gave you. There's a free workbook as a part of this event. You got it in your welcome email. And every day it has space for you to take notes about the different speakers, along with some of our favorite quotes from the speakers. It's free, it's part of the event, and we really wanted to just give you a space where you could take your notes, just like if you were at an in-person event and you would have like your little program, a place where you can take your notes that's different than your regular journal if you wanted to have that. So you can take advantage of that. You can download it, you can print it out. And also, please continue to share the event. It's not too late. You can share it with your friends and family. If it's helping you, then it'll help other people as well. And there's easy ways to do this. If you're on Facebook right now, you can just share this video. If you want to share the link with people, you can share summit.astrologyhub.com. And again, when they register, that'll ensure that they get the emails with the links every day where they can join the event. So registration is important. They also get the workbook and all the other perks that the attendees get. And then the other way you can do it is you can find one of our emails and just forward it to a friend. All right, so we have two of our three panelists here with us today, Eric Meyers and David Palmer, the Leo King. And we're also here with Chris Kaplan, who is the co-host of this event with me. So I'm really excited. We've already been gathering your questions. I wanted to give Eric and David an opportunity to introduce themselves. So Eric, let's start with you. If you can introduce yourself to everybody, that'd be great.
Sure. My name is Eric Meyers. I am an evolutionary astrologer. I've written a few books on the topic. I'm living out in the Portland, Oregon area, actually in southern Washington. I just moved here this year. And I'm currently involved in a pretty enormous project that's turned into the astrology of the Beatles, which has taken over my life. And so I'm very much in the writing phase right now. And I teach
the astrology of the Beatles.
That's right.
Awesome.
Yep, everything about the Beatles is bringing a whole other dimension to the familiar story. It's been mind-blowing. So that occupies most of my time, and I work with clients, and right now I'm not teaching because I'm writing and I just moved. But that's a little bit about my world.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eric. We'll hear a lot more from you throughout this session. And David.
Yo, 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 what's going on? I'm David Palmer. I go by the Leo King. I'm also an evolutionary astrologer, but I kind of think of it like I'm some crazy alien human that channels a bunch of random stuff, and the planets are the language of that. So, I mean, the universe is crazy, and I think we're all trying to understand it all the time. And so I don't really try to put labels anymore on like what I'm doing or the projects that I'm doing. Lots of people know me as just really as the brash astrologer that just says it as it is, throws it out there, and created multimedia companies that really pushes astrology to the next level with video horoscope apps. And we created High Vibe TV now. I have a huge media television studio. We built the first media full astrology, spirituality television studios with my partner. And we're really pushing up the spiritual message in a whole new way and making it brash and showing that it's for all people, that it's not just green juice and yoga, and that's not what spirituality is. And that's not, astrology is not just, you know, going to some school getting a certification, that it's way deeper than that, and it's way more powerful, and it's about inspiring people and waking them up of the crazy matrix and the programming that we've all been programmed under.
Beautiful. And we love you. We have been featuring the Leo King since the very beginning. For those of you who don't know, he was one of my first entrees into astrology and literally a lifeline for me when I was going through a really challenging time of my life. And his app and the updates he would give and the way that he delivered his message. And I just felt like he was speaking right to me. And it was like I had a friend out there who understood what was going on. And I knew that I wasn't alone. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And we have a lot of great questions already that have come in for both of you. Chris, I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hello everyone. Eric and David, so great to see you here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm a co-host for the summit. I have been studying astrology for a little while now as well. I love what David was saying about awakening to that receptivity of that improvisation and flow into life. And that's something that's very much part of Eric's work as well. We did an amazing presentation earlier on the rhythmic cycles of the zodiac, declinations and progressions, how it's a natural hack into this living cosmos that we find ourselves. So I'm excited to be here, and yeah, great to see everyone.
Chris, I love that, a natural hack. That's so cool. All right, so let's start with some questions for you guys. Here we are. All right, so I'm prioritizing the Inner Circle members' questions. Thank you so much for turning these in. We do have a membership here at Astrology Hub, and one of the perks of their membership is that their questions are going to the top of the queue. That doesn't mean we are not going to be able to answer a lot of your other questions as well. Yesterday, we got through a lot of questions, so we're just gonna like go through them and answer as many as we can. Okay, so from Warren, Inner Circle member, Warren says, why is the past life reference always assume the why does the past life reference always assume the planet Earth? Why not some other point in the universe? Oh, before you answer that, David, I want to address Sahara Rose. Sahara is not joining us today. I'm very sorry. We found out very last minute that she's not able to join today. So my deepest apologies. I would just recommend signing up for her newsletter, downloading her bonus gift if you were resonating with her talk, which I know you will because I got to do that talk and it was amazing. But hopefully you'll have a chance to stay in touch with her through her own outlet. So please reach out to her with her newsletter, take her Ayurvedic quiz. I know once you do that, you'll get on her newsletter. So maybe you'll be able to ask questions that way. And if you want to submit questions for her, I'll forward them along and hopefully she'll be able to respond. I do know she is leaving for a 2-week vacation to Hawaii, and I don't even know which island. She might even be coming to my island tomorrow. So I don't know if she'll be able to answer them, but please go ahead and submit them and we will send them along and see what happens. All right. Okay, so yes, why does the past life reference always assume the planet Earth? Why not some other point in the universe?
Who's this guided towards? Anybody?
Oh, it's guided towards you. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That's kind of an interesting question. I mean, well, number one, I don't know any other place where conscious beings or breathing air are at. So I would say that past life reference, I mean, you're going to be experiencing them from a human form, right? Like an understanding of a human form. I mean, it's like very rarely that you have like experiences that are outside this place when you go to past life. Like when you do past life stuff, I've always noticed there's a lot of connection with the humanity aspect of life. Whether that's you look at astrology, and I mean, we use as an astrology chart, whether it's geo-based, which of course is the Earth at the center. If you go into helio, that's a whole different story. So if you want to go into what I like to call like more future life stuff, like you can look in helio and see there's, especially Michael Erlewine did a lot of this work, which was based upon creating the Dharma chart off the helio chart. But a lot of people still aren't ready to go there. So I think astrology is advancing. So I think it's a great question because it's kind of odd, like maybe one day like geo-based astrology will be past astrology, and maybe there'll be new astrologies like helio-based and even farther beyond than we know. But I mean, I really think that when you connect to past lives traditionally through Earth-based charts, I mean, you're going to get Earth-based lives usually. Not to say that you can't go to other places through past life regressions and stuff like that, but it's very easy to look at the nodes or look at certain planetary aspects or Saturn and all the karma that you have, and seeing the work that's being done from those past lives and how your evolution is coming to now at this point and where we're at now. So, I mean, who knows where that'll be 1,000 years from now if we'll even be here or looking at the universe from a different point of view, you know?
Thank you. And I know the panelist who was on yesterday, Maru Matu, you still have access to her talk for several more hours. She does the starseed lineage readings. So you can actually track your starseed locations, the different places in the galaxy that you've come from. So that's another route that you might want to explore if you want to check out Maru Matu's starseed readings. So, okay, let's see. For Eric, what is from Stephanie? What is your advice to people with seasonal depression?
Yeah, I spoke about the seasonal rhythm in my talk, and now we're in autumn, and so we're headed to the darker time of the year, and it's only going to get darker. So seasonal affective disorders are a real thing. I actually have a background in the mental health field. I worked for about 20 years until I did astrology full time. And so I get it, I see it. And, you know, on a mundane level, there's all types of things like supplements or certain lighting that can mimic the sun that are popular that people can use. I also, as I spoke about in the talk, we have an egoic preference, in my view, for more summer or brighter energy. And because of that, many people have a hard time with winter or more inward or darker energy. And so I think honoring it and not fighting it and not wishing it to be different, but accepting and deepening into the gift of darkness, into autumn and winter, is the more mature route. And there's gifts within darkness. There's creative potential. There's undiscovered parts of the self and insight that's available. So if there is some degree of heaviness or sadness, well, what's the gift in that? What might that teach? And how might we be with our experience without needing to change it is part of the lesson. So it's a different type of spiritual development. Summer is about the realization and the blossoming, and winter is more about the seed potential and what's underground and going inward. And so the realization that all emotions or feelings are temporary and to be with it, and there's always a gift. So I encourage the curiosity about what that deep dive might find.
Okay.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Chris, you want to add?
Yeah, I do. Well, I know Eric has a lot of fun things to add about that previous question about the past life nature and heliocentric work, because it's very much involved with Eric's work as well. And I just wanted to say, one of those things, I mean, time is non-linear, and there are future entities coming through, and maybe they're perceived as being past human lives because that's their dominant filter on this reality.
Yeah, can I just say, when I think of past lives, I think in the realm of linear time, meaning right now, September 24th, 2018.
Right.
It's prior to this moment, but when you get beyond the Saturnian wall, I believe that there's plenty of past lives that are actually what we understand as the future, or in different systems. I think of Earth as a curriculum, as a school, and this isn't the only school. There's billions of stars in our galaxy and billions of galaxies. So we're talking unlimited billions. And so I don't always view things as being relevant in a linear way to this own Earth school, but I don't know. And the astrology chart doesn't give that information. So I'm not psychic and I don't pretend to know any of this info, but I don't just assume linearity. I can't even say the word, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, totally. And we're all made of stardust. We're all made of the same material throughout the universe. Is literally inside ourselves. So as that unfolds and regresses, we can have fun with it.
Right, but we got to deal with the chart as we see it. And
Right.
It is, like David said, it is a geocentric chart that is Earth-based, and we have to look at it from this coordinate system. That's the only choice we have. But I certainly don't exclude other possibilities. I just don't bring it into my consults because I don't know.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Chris, for bringing that back around too. Okay, so from Inner Circle member Felina, for you, David. David, when you were talking about Venus and Saturn, you said they really don't like each other. Is there a mythic storyline you're referring to, or do you just mean something like attraction and restriction don't mix well?
Well, I mean, one, Venus loves to feel good. Saturn does like to feel good, just it's not in the same way. I always look at Venus, if you watch her dance, like she's kind of like the girl that's always running away that you're trying to catch, you know what I mean? Where Saturn will just sit there and not run after anything and take its time and slowly walk away. And, Saturn tends to be the one that says, look you're wearing that shoes, daughter, and you're wearing that dress to the prom and it's showing too much skin. And Venus is like, what the hell? Like, I want to look good, you know what I mean? So, they find ways to work together, though, at the same time. But, like, when there's hard aspects with them, and I think this person's probably referring to, I was talking the last 8-year Venus cycle, when Venus had retrograded in Scorpio back into Libra, its home sign, but Saturn was in Libra and its exaltation. So Venus was in, its dignity, but it's like it's a weird thing because it's like, did we really get the full Venus cycle out of it? Like, and if you look at the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that was in the 80s, that was in Libra, and how that's finishing finally after this 33 to 35 year cycle that's happening in Capricorn. Like, there's so much about this Venus-Saturn stuff and relationship stuff, and more importantly, feeling good, like, and beauty that on the planet has not been good for the last 35 years. Like, it's been shitty. And so, like, there's a lot of connections, whether you look at the Venus cycles and how Saturn's been related, and here how funny, here we are in another Venus retrograde coming up, and it's coming back into Libra, and guess what? Saturn's in Capricorn this time in its dignity, and Venus is in its dignity. And so there's these weird kind of conflicts that we've been going through with Venus-Saturn stuff. It's been very detrimental to the beauty, to the relationship systems, to the traditional marriage system, to all these systematic aspects that don't allow, you know, the expression of, you know, Botticelli's full expression of, like, the birth of Venus, like the beautiful woman who's just fucking naked and showing her beautiful hair, and I'll take her fucking home tonight if I want, you know what I mean? Whether Saturn likes it or not, you know? Like, I don't like those rules, you know what I mean? Like, why have those freaking rules? Like, she's damn fucking beautiful, you know? But Saturn will say, oh, wait, did you take her on 3 dates? Why do you think they made chastity belts? Saturn and Venus. You know what I mean? There it is.
Thank you. All right. Here we go. One more inner circle question for you, Eric. How do you get the same kind of declination chart you show for McCartney in Solar Fire 9?
Yeah, technical question. That takes a lot of steps to describe. Do you want me to go through all of that? A lot of technical information that you're asking of me.
Right. Do you think maybe you could give it to us after the call and we could get this over to her?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically learning how to use solar fires, what the question is. I mean, the declination wave that I showed you, just have to hit a few different selections on the graphic ephemeris function.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you want me to take everyone through. I don't know if that's the best use of it.
If you want to maybe email me later and I can pass that on, we can.
Yeah, for sure. That's a solar fire tutorial question.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Here we go. Dominique, for you, David. When looking at the nodes, which comes first in importance, the sign or the house placement?
Well, I don't think there's a dominant part. I think it's an integration. So it's an immersion of it all. So you got to look at both aspects at the same time. Like, I mean, especially, I mean, what if you get like the nodes like in the signs and like the houses that are of the same sign, like energetically, you know what I mean? Like, that's even more doubly powerful. But I don't think that there's one that trumps the other as far as what that means. But especially, I think that the one thing that you would want to pay attention to the most is if you have the nodes in houses that are in interception. To me, that's with the signs that are in interception and the nodes there, that is a major karmic, really powerful, gnarly story that you're going to unveil. The really powerful, the weirdest stuff you're going to find are going to be in those node situations. So if you have an intercept and those signs don't have a house attached to them and your nodes are in that sign, that's when all my flags go, like, this is where the real crazy info is. So to me, I would say that is what I look for first before I look at, you know, oh, what sign and what house or whatever. Like, I look, is this intercepted and are they in that house? And is the sun or the moon in the same signs as the nodes and in interception? Oh my gosh, like, there's going to be some weird stuff there. I mean, look at like Donald Trump's chart. You know, he has an interception, and he was born on a lunar eclipse, and he has the nodes with his sun and his moon. I mean, there's a lot to be said about stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm curious to see what Eric would think about that as well. I know. Do you put the same weight to interceptions on that? What's your process with that?
It hasn't been the variable that I've focused on as much as David, it seems. Everything's relevant. I do agree with the sense of holism too often people give you that question, well, what's more important? Well, everything's important. We have to think holistically. We have to integrate, not compete, and not, you know, say, oh, this or that. Everything is holistically part of the dynamic. So my sense is that we can sink into a chart factor and let it speak to us. What emerges? Pay attention to the intuitive, not just learning from some textbook or some teacher, you know, nuts and bolts. Astrology, to me, needs to be left and right brain engaged.
Very nice. Okay, you guys. Hold on one second here. I had one that was good. How can you tell what karma you are facing using charts? That's a general for either one of you.
Go ahead, David.
I mean, as Eric's talking about full integration and intuition and left and right and bringing it all together, I mean, like, that one's a really loaded question of what kind of karma are we speaking about? I mean, you know, I mean, but like, I mean, we want to give people some sort of information. I mean, I would say some of the most powerful stuff are, you know, what is the ruler of your 12th house? What is that planet? Is that planet being affected? Is that planet being hit by eclipses? Is that planet like going through a gnarly, you know, transformational experience? As evolutionary astrologers, like, we're looking at like how the progressions and the solar arcs and all these things and how they're affecting the rulers of the houses and those planets. And if it's 12th house, if it's that 12th house ruler, you're going to be dealing with really crazy past life karma situations. You're going to be dealing with purging old patterns. You're going to be dealing with a lot of that stuff. And you're going to notice that you're right back smack dab in like a pattern that's karmic that you're overcoming, that you thought you would overcome. And it's like, ha ha ha, yeah, right. You know what I mean? Right back in your face again. Now that you're like more evolved, can you really at the higher state of evolution face that karma again and then, you know, kind of try and kick it out? I mean, I don't know what else. That's my look at it.
I want to mention one thing that that I see out there quite a bit, where there is the phrase that I've run into numerous times where people say that there's something that they need to move away from. Generally, the South Node gets this. And I have been very vocal that I don't believe that we're moving away from the South Node or anything in a chart. We need to do everything more consciously. To me, the South Node is a work in progress. Imagine that you leave off from 4th grade. And the point then isn't to just say, oh, everything up to 4th grade was a mistake. I should just move away from that. No, why don't we learn the lessons of everything up to 4th grade and integrate it more consciously? And then we're a lot more able to bring in other stuff. And so one of the major differences or things that I like to do is to really advocate for the conscious version of South Node types of things. And to me, not only is it not something to move away from, it's something critical that we actually signed up to finish. So I believe we should finish the job, not abandon it because we began it unconsciously. That's no reason to abandon something. It's reason to finish it.
Yeah, I have to agree with Eric. I don't think there is this like trash in the universe where it just gets dumped. You dumped it and it's gone. Like the way this world works. I mean, even when I'm going to go to the bathroom probably after this and take a poop or a pee. And even though I put it down the toilet, like it's going somewhere and it's getting put back in this universe and in this world. I think that we like right when you start to think that you are somewhat in this higher spiritual plane, like I've got through all my issues, like the universe smacks you right back in the face, like with all those karmic stuff, those patterns that we have to keep. But you know, you got to stay on it. That's what the whole lesson of this Earth School is like, and it's going to come in. That's what I love about astrology, different forms, right? Like it's going to show up differently, but you're going to see the same common like pattern that you're learning to really integrate and to finish, as Eric says. It's a beautiful way to put it. Like, it's not going to just like be just, you know, oh, I did the work and I'm done. Like, there is no, like, I'm done with this. Like, right when you think you're done with that, it will come back and find a way to integrate in maybe a different, of course, because astrology changes every second that we're talking. It's like there's going to be a new angle of it always, if that makes sense.
Do you guys think that we ever reach a point of mastery on certain elements of life, or do you think it's just we're going to completely continue to re-experience them over and over?
Oh, totally. I think that the whole point of the chart is a curriculum for a lifetime. And if we are on a path of growth and we're doing our chart, and you see this with people who have aged and have wisdom and consciousness, there are things that become more satisfied. Like, yeah, you know, I came in to attend to something, and I have reached a sense of completion with something. And so then the curriculum moves on. You go on to graduate school, perhaps, you know, from college. I think that's possible all the time. In my practice, I've seen plenty of examples and evidence of people who are doing something extraordinarily well. And we do get credit for that. And it is possible. Not to say there isn't the opposite, which is more pervasive, where most people are on the merry-go-round of unconsciousness and they keep going round and round with the lessons. That's out there too. That's pervasive. But astrology can provide this amazing you know, layout and objective understanding of what the path is, which is very helpful to have the owner's manual.
Eric, and that reminds me of the Buddhist term of Shenpa. Pipa Trojan talks about it quite often. It's that perpetual itch. That's a very similar version of karma, where no matter what, you're on this merry-go-round and you're going to have the same issue bubble up again. And it's about being aware of your reaction towards it. And that slowly unveils, but it doesn't mean that lesson is going away. It'll constantly, life will keep on bringing it for you, but your awareness around it and your reactions change around it.
Yeah, can I give an example? I hardly ever do this. This is rare to give my own personal example, but I'll do it right now because I've got a Leo South node and an Aquarius North node. And to me, the Aquarius North node is obviously metaphysics and astrology, but the Leo South node, to me, has something unfinished around entertainment. And I'm doing the Beatles book, right? The astrology of the Beatles, integrating Aquarius with Leo. So this book comes to my awareness when my progressed Venus in Leo hits my South node, when the transiting North node, which is in Leo right now, is pointing to it as well. And so saying, time to finish up the South node work. It's not to be abandoned. It's being energetically activated. And I feel this undescribable connection with this project and this band is the whole Leo completion. Bringing in the Aquarius is the synthesis going on with this reverse nodal return. So that's one example. And forgive me for using my own chart. I hardly ever do it, but it's the only one that jumped up at the moment. But that's one example is completion.
Well, my question to you though, Eric, is how do you know it's a completion? Like, what if it's something that you're now embarking on in a new way? I mean, because the book could actually bring more spotlight.
Well, the way that I'm framing is this. When I was young, like 5 to 15, I was a huge Beatles freak. And then I went away and I wasn't. And I left it. And I went on to other things and I wasn't a Beatles freak, but it made a huge mark on me. And it's so central to my childhood. And so I went and I got all Aquarian and metaphysical and all of this, but I'm completing what was so instinctual and resonant when I was young to do something with it that's more mature and metaphysically advanced. That completes that interest in entertainment that was so prominent when I was a child.
Got it. Would love to hear from all of you out there. Have you had these kinds of experiences? And is there anything in your life that you feel like you've gotten to a point of a theme that you've gotten to a point of mastery, or it's come around several times and you see that you're making progress, at least? You don't know if you're a master yet, but it's getting easier to handle a certain type of energy. Would love to hear from you in the chat on that. Okay. All right, a question from Sophie, a technical one. Quickly, what house system do you use and why for both of you?
I use all, well, I mean, I mainly use Porphyry, Placidus, Equal, and whole sign. But a whole sign to me is a joke. It's like you can do that in your head. Like if you don't know how to do that in your head, then like I get it, but like it's not really a house system in my opinion. Like it's like that's solar, like in my head. But it depends. So I use Placidus to find intercepts on people, and then I use Porphyry to kind of look. For me, I think it's a little bit more spiritually esoteric in my opinion. I think Placidus is a little bit more like real world scenarios mixed with karmic situations, and then I use Equal to kind of help the person if they have the intercepts find a ruler for some planet, because if you got Scorpio in intercept and Taurus, I mean, sorry, it's like, where does Pluto go? I mean, you know what I mean? Like your Pluto's gone. Like where does, you know, and then I'm helping people with those issues of that stuff. So you got to kind of use like a lot in your, and you got to go case by case. So it's like, for me, it's case by case. Like, it's not really like, I'm like, I do this one only, and that's the way I do it. Da, 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 da. It's like, really, I kind of free flow however it's going. I played with cock for a little bit, but I don't like cock in real life, so that's why I stopped doing it, because it was just like, that name just, and I just sucked. Like, just get a better name.
Okay. All right, Eric, how about you?
Okay, so my history with house systems. First of all, I'm not militant on it. There's many house systems, and each to his own, and I'm not preaching that you should use the one I do. I can just speak from my experience. I got into astrology in 1998, and I studied with Stephen Forrest and was trained on Placidus, and I used Placidus for the first 8 years of my astrological education. In 2006, a few friends of mine were using Porphyry, and they challenged me in 2006 to research it and see what I found, to just look at it objectively and open-mindedly. So I did. And I conducted my research, and Porphyry won. And I've been attentive to this issue for the last 12 years. And so I use exclusively Porphyry right now. And this is part of the reason, to build on the prior question, as David mentioned, you don't have as many intercepts with Porphyry, just by the way it casts the charts. So that's why I didn't have that much to say. I don't run into intercepts using Porphyry. But in my research, the intermediate house cusps are very sensitive to Porphyry. If you look at transits going over those intermediate house cusps, it works. And so I've had good success with it, and not to discount the others, but just from my own research is very clear. So that's what I use.
Okay, a lot of questions about intercepts, people not knowing what that actually is. David, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, all it really is like the way, especially like in Placidus, like basically it's, if you look at, start from your rising sign. So we'll do some really just like, so somebody who doesn't really maybe do this all the time, like each house is going to land in a sign, okay? And so you're going to notice in an intercept chart that there's going to be a sign with 2 houses that are in that sign, and then on the other side of that sign they'll have 2 houses, but that means it leaves 2 signs without a house. So what it means is like literally the sign doesn't have a house system to attach itself to. So sure, people get confused because they're like, well, in my 3rd house, what do you mean the planet's going through there and maybe Scorpio's, you know, there? It's like, but you don't have a house like actually in the sign. And what that means is also, number one, the rulership of that house is lost because there is no, so it literally is these signs without houses. And I mean, spiritually and esoterically, as an evolutionary astrologer, I always feel like these are the areas in which the soul has the hardest issues of integrating these energies. And you'll notice the theme in their life. Like, let's say if it's the polarity of Taurus and Scorpio. I don't know why that one I see a lot of. It's like they obviously have manifesting issues. They have issues with boundaries. They have issues on what they're going to create in life. They have issues on how to use their power this life. They feel powerless, and then they feel super powerful, and then they give away their power, or they you know what I mean? Like they're just like, it's like, oh my gosh. Or you look at it in other, you know, polarities, you know? So that's really what it is. And it really is, especially when you get really weird scenarios in those houses. I mean, you can really help people with stuff that they wouldn't see through normal, typical, basic astrology, through those intercepts and through the unique forms of what's going on in those intercepted houses. That to me is like the weird, like every like there's a lot of souls that are kind of like, I don't want to call them normal, but right, we're all unique, but like, okay, yeah, like boom, you can run a Placidus chart on them, and it's like, okay, it's all great. Then you get some where it's like these crazy intercepts, these crazy things, and there's some souls that have like this weird little twist that you need to help them figure out that nobody's giving them the answer to. And they're like, why is my life all screwed up? And why does it keep doing this over and over? And I've been to 15 astrologers, and I've been to this and this, and it's always the fun. I'm not going to cuss. You guys are unreal, but it's always that damn intercept, and it's always the crazy crap going on in there. Every time. It's like, imagine like if you had crayons and there's 12 colors, like you're missing 2 freaking crayons. So you don't know how to draw those colors. So maybe you need to start to learn from all those other ones and start mixing the colors and start learning how to make it, you know? I mean, or find a way to like find those crayons in yourself, you know? Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's a hard thing, and it's hard to tell. I'll be honest, intercept people are the hardest people to, I'll be real, to deal with, because they have that part missing, and it's very difficult when that part is missing in their soul to help them understand it, because it's missing literally, and that there's a lot of issues around it.
Eric, do you want to add anything to that?
No, again, it's not really a big area for me.
Okay.
And I don't run into it as much with porphyry. One thing I will say is just in practice, porphyry seems to work best for me, but in theory too. If you think of the chart layout as space, and you have the ascendant and you have the midheaven, right? And that's a spatial region. What porphyry does is it takes that space and divides it into 3. Very simple and elegant. A lot of other house systems have very complicated statistical formula, mathematics, and a lot of it's based on time. Where porphyry is very simple and elegant, very basic. And doesn't it make intuitive sense? You have an area around, 90 degrees or so. Well, let's say it's 100 degrees. It's a little bit bigger. Just divide it into 3. And then we got, 3 houses in that quadrant. It's very simple, and it works. So I don't think, we need to get overly fancy with a lot of mathematical computation to get house cuts. Just divide it into 3.
Well, yeah, it's interesting with the, with Placidus is like, people in England, Australia, you're going to notice these people that are the farthest away from the equator are going to have these huge house systems and intercepts. Why do you think all the people up north and down south are freaking weird? I couldn't figure it out until I freaking was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Like, I was like, gee, Merry Christmas. Like it really blew my mind, because then when you go to the equator, it's like melting pot. Everybody's like cool, like integrated in it, but you go way up north, Canada, all my clients in Canada, the UK, Russia, they all got intercepts because they're all the same. Like they're all like the people are all this, like there's no melting pots. Then you go down to like Australia and you go down to, it's like it blew my mind when I started going, oh my gosh, like there is this weird part, because there is different angles of the Earth's position of our view of space from different parts of the Earth, and where the equator sits and where we're at, and even also the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, and how that algorithm works with the ecliptic. There is different weirder zones on the planet that show off really weird. I mean, the sun is only going to be up, like in Canada, now that it's coming fall, it's like it's gonna get dark for more than we usually see it. So there's gonna be some weird places that you were born in a weird space. I mean, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. Like, sorry, you weren't born in King's Landing. You were born in Winterfell. You know what I mean? And like, guess what? Your chart says that. You know what I mean? Like in the way that it looks. You know, it's not all perfect and pretty, like, you know, like being born by the equator and being born in this kind of perfect kind of vibe. You know, like it's not saying that it's bad, but you know, like Placidus will show you that you were in a weird place when you were born.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Polly has a question, kind of a big question. Why do you think people in the world have become so polarized in this time period?
That is a big question. All right, well, my thought is, this brings us to another direction, is what I see happening right now, and this is transiting Pluto, which is hitting its own south node in Capricorn right now. And this is a really big deal. And what I believe is going on here is we're having a major confrontation with our past, our entrenchment psychologically, Pluto, in our institutions, in our past, in basically patriarchy, which has been governing life on this planet for a long time. And we're having a confrontation with resolving that, or in some ways it can get amplified, is actually what we're seeing. That's part of the resolution process. And what I see in the 2020s is new beginnings. We have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. We've got Pluto moving to Aquarius. We've got the beginning of other cycles as well. And this focus on the past and the closing of the cycles, the resolution of the past, and this Pluto hitting its south node in Capricorn, this amplification or even explosion around the entrenchment in the past is coming up. So things could be polarized, because when you have polarization, like an opposition, that can bring creative tension and awareness and resolution, and things get revealed and exposed, so we can choose how we want to begin the new cycles in the 2020s. Without all of this, we wouldn't have as much clarity and awareness of how we want to move forward. So I see it as enormously productive and important, however difficult it is to the personality.
David or Chris?
Yeah, no, that's really well put, especially Pluto South Node. And Michael Luton's doing really great work on that. I want to give him a shout out. Well, I see it as a lot of what Eric says, but if we were to like kind of look at this as a fun history lesson, we have Neptune and Pisces right now. Last time it was there was 1848 through, 61 and to 62 finishing. And that was the Civil War buildup and the slavery issue and the polarization of this, you're conscious, no, you're not conscious. I mean, it was, it was the battle between that and the first Jupiter in its home sign of Sagittarius square Neptune in its home sign was in 1852 into 1853, which is coming up here in 2019. And that was the beginning of, Uncle Tom's Cabin had just come out. It was like this divisive, like, are we doing slavery? Or are we not? We also had one of the worst presidents of all time in there. What was his name? He was in 1852. I forgot his name. Anyway, he beat the last Whig Party. The Whig Party ended in 1852. There was a bunch of crazy, long-standing battles about if slavery is right or wrong, and it started to come out through the press. It was a battle of the press. Neptune rules the media. Neptune rules the illusion of how we put everything out there, and we're seeing it all right now. At the same time that Pluto's at Capricorn, exactly at the degrees to where the Boston Tea Party happened. Exactly right now as Uranus has now entered into Taurus at the beginning of fascism and the crazy radicalization of changing who alliances are. We're going through all of these things at the same time, like for the first time ever. Like it's not ever been that way. So you're talking about all the most major and then the Pluto-Uranus square that was in the middle of all this from 2012 to 2015. I mean, talk about polarization. I mean, totally like taking the integration from the Pluto-Uranus conjunction of the 60s and finally bringing it to a point to where it's like, are we going to integrate this or not? Like, and it's polarizing because people aren't ready for new paradigms. People aren't ready to make radical change. People are wanting to stay in the system, and they want to, they feel safe there. They're afraid to live in a radical world of change, or they're afraid of true authenticity. They're afraid of looking outside into the universe. They're afraid of being real. They're lost with this Neptunian media world of movies and television that's programming people to polarize themselves on purpose. The same thing happened in the 1800s. We found Neptune by a guy who literally funded his astronomy career off beer. Why do you think it's like literally that's how Neptune was found in 1846, of a guy who was an alcoholic who funded his astronomy career off beer. And then the whole first time, literally we find Neptune, then it comes into its own sign. And then guess what happens? Major gold rush. Oh my God, there's gold. And then everybody gets there and there's no freaking gold. Then they're getting claim jumped. And like all this crazy stuff. Like the polarization is everybody is just kind of freaking like thinking that they're better than the other person consciously. Like, and especially with Pluto on the South Node, as Eric brought, you know, like in Capricorn, I mean, every time that you look at the transits of Pluto crossing the nodes, whether it's the North or the South Node, is major revolutionary moments in our human history that have gone the last couple thousand. I mean, every time Pluto and its nodes cross, like major human events just blah, and then you combine all that other stuff. And then on top of it, the last thing I would say, the polarization is the transit that's going down in 2019 into 2020 before the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius is the most Capricorn we've ever seen in our lives since 1284. Saturn, Pluto, but then we're getting Jupiter at the end of 2019. The South Node eclipses in Capricorn. Go do your math and astrology. Like that hasn't happened since 1284. And what happened right after that? The Dark Ages. Like people like control. This is like a huge control system. And we've got Neptune sextiling it, and it's through media, and it's through projection of control, and it's literally mind control, and people are being mind controlled and polarized, and like people are meant to believe that Trump's horrible. People are meant to believe that the Democrats are horrible. People are meant to, like, they are just throwing out as much pasta on the wall, and it's all sticking, and people are just sitting there and eating it, and they're being ingested by reptilians. There it is. That's freaking true.
You know, yeah, Eric, I want to give you a chance to say something real quick. Along the lines of what you were just saying, I was contemplating, I've been contemplating recently this idea that that things are really bad. You know, things are really bad on the planet. And there's a book called Enlightenment Now. I can't remember the author. We can put that in the chat later. But it shows the research that things actually aren't as bad as they seem, and that perhaps there's more light on this planet now than there ever has been, and perhaps the perception that there's more darkness is just the darkness being louder, and like you said, you know, the media outlets and all these things. So I just want to put that out there to think about, because when that idea even came to me, it was like, wow, could that be true? And if that is true, that changes a lot of the way that I see things. So just sit with it. It's an amazing book. There's tons of research behind it too. So it's not just like someone's opinion about it. So yeah, check it out. All right, Eric, what were you going to say?
I wanted to just comment because David mentioned Neptune and Pisces, and Pisces is a sign of endings, and we are in a time of endings. And Neptune goes to Aries in the middle of next decade, around 2025, I believe. And he also mentioned the Uranus-Pluto square. Well, also in the middle of the 2020s, which, believe it or not, is not that far. It's almost 2019. So in the middle of the 2020s, we're going to have a Uranus-Pluto trine, bridging from earth signs to air signs. And I don't sit here and say that trines are good and squares are bad. I don't bring that vocabulary into my astrology. They're different types of connection. They both have a advantage and also something unconscious to them. You can sleep through trines and not take advantage of them, and they're not as evolutionary urgent. There is a way to mess up trines, and there's a way to do squares well, of course. So I don't look at it in a conventional way. But the point being is, in this new progressive cycles that we're having, with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, with Pluto moving to Aquarius, we're having a major emphasis on that archetype in the 2020s. While Uranus, the planet of revolution and innovation and new paradigms, enters Gemini, which is an air sign of ideas, and it's going to be trine Pluto in Aquarius. So the prospects of having this globally interconnected, brilliant, kind of synthesis of consciousness with airy matrix, internet, whatever frameworks, we see a lot of that building now, but it's going to hopefully become much more informed and conscious and workable. And this airy trine with the Uranus-Pluto, I think, is not getting enough discussion. We talked forever about the Uranus-Pluto square, and we saw that, and it clashed, and it was hard. And I'm not negating that, but I think we should begin the conversations about this enormous progressive potentials in the mid-2020s, which I find to be awfully attractive, and is part of the reason why I did not put my head in the sand and just go away. I was like, yeah, I got the big picture. Things are going to be different. It's almost like we're in the 50s right now, knowing that the revolutionary astrology of the 60s is just around the corner. And of course, the 60s was massively different than the 50s. I see it. It's different, but some kind of comparison of the old Capricornian, breaking down, resolving things, finishing cycles now with Capricorn, and new progressive, beginnings with Aquarius to come soon.
So Eric, the promise of new beginnings and a whole new era of thought and everything that you're talking about is one of the reasons why we're already right now planning a series in 2019 to help people get ready for that new energy that's coming in. So you all can stay tuned for more information on that. Chris, would you like to address?
I do want to address that question real quick. And as we were mentioning, this is a cumulative effect. And we're talking about really a transitional phase of society where it's going once through a death throes and once through a birth moment. And it traces back, if you look at the processional cycles of the equinoxes and the age of Pisces, and how in a notion of astrology, you feel more the approaching transits. We feel more that shift into the so-called Aquarian age, where you're still in the age of Pisces. That pending shift is happening. And whether that conjunction happening is a birth moment for that, we'll see. These things are never completely fluid. But also, on the Yuga cycles, we were simultaneously entering that Pisces age. We were descending into the dark of the Kali Yuga cycle, and we're still in that Kali Yuga cycle, but it's supposed to be swinging back out of it. We're rising back out. So we're in that transitional phase where we're going back towards that new light, that birthing moment of spring and civilization reblossoming, while at the same time that death throes of culture and the patriarchy, that separation mentality that we are isolated from spirituality, from that divinity. That's that internal lesson. And that's what was a big teaching around the matrilineal cultures, the indigenous wisdom keepers, where you were at one with nature, at one with with everything being alive. Whereas in the patriarchal culture, completely separated, divorced from that. Like we had to master this, we had to control nature, we had to one-up it and kind of dominate it. And that was just, it had very potent side effects. At the same time, during this, whatever this age it is, it also paved the way where we have this instantaneous connectivity now. We can have this summit, we can all be in different places, we can unify the planet. So now it's that time of healing, remembering, reawakening, and it's fun.
I like hearing that. I want to make one more quick point. I know that time is of the essence here, but we mentioned Neptune moving from Pisces, graduating or leaving the 14-year transit of Pisces. Neptune gets to Aries around the same time, in the mid-2020s, and there'll be a complex aspect configuration of the trine from Uranus to Pluto, from Gemini to Aquarius, and Neptune in Aries sextile both of them. So you're going to have this cool triangle in the sky for a long time of the three outer planets in harmonious aspect from Aquarius to Aries to Gemini, and it looks awfully cool. Now, again, it doesn't promise anything, and it's how we work with it. But the evolutionary invitation to partner with this thing is really impressive. And I think for a lot of people who are involved in spiritual pursuits, we incarnated to live under that configuration and to do something with it. So look to how it hits your chart. Whatever you've got going on in the beginning of air or fire signs is going to be hit by that triangle. And so whatever you got in your chart, that is how you're being called to action to do something with this possibility in the mid-2020s.
Very good. All right, I'm going to give you both, David and Chris, an opportunity to just leave the audience with any thought that you would like to before we close up.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll go. I think that the conversation, the way that this ended is right. Like, it looks crazy and dark right now, but there is so much light because, and I think Chris and Eric have both said it in a really good way. It's like, there's so much ending. This old paradigm is ending. So whenever you see the Tower card in tarot, like, this is what's happening. Like, you know, it's like, you know, it looks like it's hell, but it's like, we all know that we want it to end anyway this way. Like, it's not working anymore. And the new future of what's coming beyond this point, I mean, is beyond our wildest dreams. I mean, it's beyond our comprehension, especially at this moment. But it's what struggles we're going through now that create such that crazy radical beauty that we all know that we're all ready to have on the planet. So it's like not about being scared about it, but it's like being an observer and watching this really old system end. Because the last time that all this happened in Capricorn, it was with the North Node in Capricorn. This time it's with the South Node. And so this is definitely the fall. The South Node in Saturn in Capricorn with its dignity there, with eclipses on top of it, while Pluto's there, the Pluto-Saturn conjunction, right? And of course with Jupiter then entering. I mean, like, this is it. We're going to watch what we thought the world should always look like and be. And the Mayans called it. We started seeing it starting in 2012. Like, that was the end of the world. It was the beginning. They were right. Like, there was that shift point there. I think that was true. And just know that that beauty is there. And instead of getting lost in the drama and the fear, like, be an observer and watch this and have honor and integrity of watching something that was beautiful at one time, that created us humans to get to where this new level is and where we're going to go next. That's going to be radical, and honor it and watch. And like, this is the funeral of that life. And so funerals can be scary from outside, but sometimes when you're inside and you appreciate it and you give it that love and you give it that integrity for what it taught you and the things that it did, you can release that. And we're at the wake of the old world right now, you know? So.
Wow. So much wisdom in there. Thank you so much. And when you were talking about the flowering of a new beginning, I was thinking about how important it is to have really fertile soil to be able to grow the new flower, the new plant, and not everything that's come before now is like the compost. And it's, you know, crumbling down, breaking down, and it becomes amazing, dark, rich soil for the next phase. So that's just beautiful. Thank you for all of that hope and inspiration, both of you. Chris?
Yeah, well said on the plant life and new growth. It really does just rejuvenate and allows for new life to come to being. And I would say the biggest thing is, like, when you're going through the transitional cycles and when moments do seem so oppressive and so dark, it's just to learn to sit with it and breathe with it. You know that it's not going to be permanent. Nothing is ever permanent. So these cycles do change. And the biggest thing is to, like, hold on to that element of joy. Like, I feel like when you have moments of happiness or have moments of joy, there's also this inherent feeling of guilt that other people are suffering, so why should I be joyful? But when you're holding that space of joy, it holds it for everyone. And to really embrace that, I think that's huge during these times.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was actually a theme yesterday, too. A lot of the panelists talked about bringing lightness to our daily realities, doing the things that we enjoy. It doesn't always have to be somber and heavy, and that lightness is just as important. So, and also on the flip side, not, you know, thinking everything's rainbows and fairies either. So
absolutely.
It's that balance. So thank you so much, you guys. This has been so much fun to share with you. Eric and David and Chris, it's been wonderful. I'd love to hear your feedback, everybody in the chat. Are these Q&A panels helpful? Again, this is new this year as a part of the summit. Are they helpful? Are they helping to augment your learning from the talks and the recordings that you're getting? Would love, love, love to hear from you. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pacific time, you will get access to the next 3 talks from Becca Tarnas, Patricia Walsh, and Adam Summer. Some amazing talks in there, you guys. So if you can just find 30 minutes in your schedule tomorrow, or 45 minutes, or an hour, or more to tune into these talks, I know you are going to love them. Again, if you have a chance to submit your questions early, it gives you a better chance of those questions getting asked. And Inner Circle members, make sure that you submit your questions early so that we know to put those at the top of the list. And remember, it's not too late to register for this event. If you or any of your friends or family would like to participate, you can go to summit.astrologyhub.com and register. And one more thing, if you know that you're not going to be able to catch as many talks as you want, please remember that the upgrade package is available right now at the best price. It will be offered $97 after the event. It's going to $197. So if you know you love the talks, if you want to access these Q&A panels for life and all the bonus gifts for life, and have more formats available to you. So you'll have the transcripts, and again, the talks will be in downloadable format. So you'll have your own personal library for this entire summit available to you, again, for the $97 event price. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Eric, David, Chris, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amanda.
And thanks to all of you for showing up and for making astrology a part of your life. I look very much forward to seeing you tomorrow.